Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're immersing ourselves in a really fascinating stack of documents.
Yeah, this one's a bit different.
It is. It's not historical analysis. It's a hard-nosed, detailed, internal business plan.
Mm,
And our focus is the proposed revival of a classic American housing concept, the timber kit home, specifically under the historic brand of Crossett Kit Homes.
that's right. And I think it's important to frame this correctly. This is not a study in nostalgia. This is a strategic blueprint.
Right.
It's an attempt to leverage a century-old idea to, tackle the modern housing affordability crisis through manufacturing efficiency.
So our mission today is pretty targeted then.
Very. We need to understand the strategy, analyze the market viability, and I think most importantly, we have to dissect the fundamental trade-offs.
For the debates.
The operational debates, exactly. The ones that are inherent in launching a complex, high-volume kit manufacturing and distribution operation in the 21st century.
Okay, so the sources lay out 3 specific product models, some really ambitious financial goals.
Very ambitious.
And this crucial 3-way debate over how exactly this company should get its product from rural Arkansas to a buyer's property anywhere in the nation.
Right.
So the goal for you, the listener, is really a complete shortcut to knowledge about modern, pre-cut, affordable housing solutions.
We want you to be able to argue intelligently about the inherent difficulties of scaling something like this.
And whether those financial targets are even realistic given the strategic choices they have to make.
Yeah, we're looking beyond the product itself and straight into the systems, the logistics, the financing hurdles, the competitive environment.
So by the time we're done, you'll see that the affordable kit prices, well, it's really only the beginning of the story.
Oh, absolutely. The true strategic challenge is everything that happens after the kit leaves the factory floor.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We should probably begin with the concept itself. What is the historical foundation of the kit home, and how does this modern Crossett version actually differ?
Well, the historical connection is. It's the emotional and strategic bedrock of this entire proposal.
It's the whole brand.
It's the whole brand. The business plan leans heavily on the premise that the original Crossett Lumber Company, based in Ashley County, Arkansas, perfected this exact model decades ago.
A vertically integrated model.
Exactly. They weren't just a sawmill. They sold complete pre-cut house solutions. They demonstrated viability, scale, and deep local expertise.
So it's a powerful proof of concept.
It's huge. They're essentially saying, we know this works because we did it before.
And just to be clear, when we talk about that early 20th century model, we're talking about companies like Sears Roebuck and Aladdin,
Right.
who really revolutionized housing by turning it into a mass-manufactured, catalog-shipped product.
They did.
But we are definitely not talking about replicating century-old quality or, energy standards.
Oh, absolutely not. And that is the core update that shifts this from a historical curiosity to a viable modern solution. They are combining these inherently efficient classic designs, simple squares, rectangles, the timeless four-square, with contemporary building science.
So what does that actually mean in practice?
It means we're talking about modern engineered materials. We're talking about designs for vastly improved thermal performance, integrated energy-efficient materials,
Right.
and blueprints that are specifically tailored for high-efficiency HVAC systems, things that are just far beyond anything the 1920s could even imagine.
So the goal is to leverage the manufacturing efficiency of the past, pre-cutting everything in a climate-controlled factory.
Which reduces on-site waste and labor time?
Right. But you wrap it in a high-performance modern shell. And that precision manufacturing philosophy leads directly to their core product line, these pre-cut, pre-bundled timber houses.
And the savings stem directly from that factory precision.
How so?
By eliminating the need for highly paid carpenters to measure and cut every stud and every rafter on site, you reduce waste and you cut construction time drastically.
So the product that arrives on the truck is a complete timber shell, shipped, ready for assembly.
That's the idea.
This philosophy, it seems to me, immediately makes their potential market incredibly diverse. It's far more creative than just people who need a cheap house.
It is. And I think it's a deliberate, multi-pronged attack on several concurrent housing needs.
Which suggests they understand something important.
It suggests the company understands the volatility of relying on any single market segment. They're trying to insulate themselves.
Okay, let's start with the traditional side of their target audience. Who are they looking at?
That's your baseline. We're talking about rural homesteaders and farmers who need supplemental housing on their property.
For what? Like for farmhands or family?
Farmhands, extended family, maybe even rental income. You also have first-time homebuyers who are just completely priced out of conventional stick-built housing.
Especially outside of big cities.
Exactly. People seeking an affordable way into homeownership away from dense urban centers. These are customers who prioritize cost savings and, crucially, already have access to land.
But the strategy quickly pivots, right? It addresses today's cultural and economic shifts.
Yeah.
I'm thinking remote work, short-term rentals.
Oh, they are aggressively targeting the massive growth in the short-term rental economy.
The Airbnb economy.
The Airbnb and cabin builders who require high-quality, aesthetically pleasing designs that can be replicated and built fast.
Often in remote places.
Often in remote, desirable locations where, contractor labor is scarce and really expensive.
They also cite off-grid builds.
They do. Off-grid and mixed-grid builds. They're catering to that demographic that's focused on self-sufficiency, on independence. The kit home is perfectly suited for that kind of remote assembly.
And then finally, there's the institutional market. This seems like the most stable, but maybe the hardest to crack.
I think that's a fair assessment, and this is critical for their long-term stability.
Who are we talking about here?
Small industries, resource management companies, mill towns, they all desperately need quickly deployable, affordable housing for their employees.
And government agencies, I assume?
For sure. State park concessions, the Forest Service, emergency housing agencies, they constantly require durable, standardized structures.
And these clients promise something different.
They promise large, predictable orders. That's a stark contrast to the small, scattered, one-off orders from the direct-to-consumer market.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this broad targeting traditional emerging and institutional markets, this is really a fundamental risk mitigation strategy.
It has to be. They're aiming for the high margins of D2C.
The direct-to-consumer.
Right. They want the growth potential of the emerging market, the Airbnbs, and the stability of institutional contracts. They're trying to insulate the business from reliance on any one economic cycle.
But that creates a huge challenge.
It creates a challenging operational complexity, but it's strategically sound. The business plan implicitly acknowledges that the D2C market alone is just too volatile to sustain the kind of scale they need.
To make that jump they're planning for.
Exactly. To finance the jump from 50 kits a year to 200, they need that stable, guaranteed revenue stream that only institutional buyers can really provide.
That makes the transition to the specific product lines so vital, because the models themselves have to appeal to this really diverse audience.
Yes.
The plan details 3 models, and they move systematically from the most affordable entry point to the flagship premium offering.
And each model is a strategic tool. It's designed to hit specific price points and, importantly, buyer capabilities.
Okay, let's start with Model 1, the Square Model Kit.
Yeah.
This is the true affordable entry point.
This is their affordable starter house. The specs are tight. We're talking 900 to 1,100 square feet.
Right.
Typically 2 or 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. And the footprint is almost a perfect square, like 26 by 26 or 28 by 28 feet.
And that geometry is not arbitrary, I'm guessing?
No, not at all. The square shape is the most efficient configuration for material use, and it minimizes the surface area exposed to the elements.
Which lowers heating and cooling costs over the long run?
Over the entire life of the structure, yeah.
The financials are what really grab your attention here, though. The production cost is listed at $38,000 to $55,000.
Right.
And the retail kit price targets $62,000 to $79,000. That kit price is dramatically below the cost of a conventionally built shell today.
It is. And the strategic advantage they list is speed. 3 to 5 days to get the shell up.
That's incredibly fast.
And crucially, it's the easiest for DIY owners because of the simple construction geometry. That accessibility is absolutely essential for their D2C market.
But wait a minute. We have to challenge that price point immediately.
Of course.
$62,000 for the kit sounds amazing, but that doesn't include the land.
Nope.
It doesn't include the foundation, the connection to utilities, whether that's septic and a well or city services.
Or the entire interior finishing labor. Drywall, paint, flooring, cabinets.
Exactly. So this is the unseen cost.
It is the unseen cost we mentioned earlier, and frankly, it's the greatest operational hurdle for the entire kit home industry today.
So the plan successfully addresses the cost of the materials.
Yes, the stuff on the truck.
But it completely sidesteps the massive cost of assembly.
It does. And this is a major point of criticism. Let me ask you this. What percentage of first-time homebuyers can actually secure a conventional mortgage for a property that still requires tens of thousands of dollars in foundational work, utility connection, and labor just to get a certificate of occupancy?
It's a huge question. Does the business plan offer any insight into solving that financing hurdle? Or is the assumption that every buyer is just paying cash?
The plan is silent on financing solutions, which I think is a major weakness.
A glaring omission.
It is. They assume the D2C customer either has the cash or is experienced enough to secure a construction loan.
Which are notoriously difficult for DIY builders to get.
Right. Almost impossible. So if a buyer spends, say, $79,000 on the top-end square kit, they still face another $50,000 to maybe even $100,000 in costs just to make it habitable.
So if the company can't help bridge that financing gap, the perceived affordability of the kit price it's undermined by the total cost of ownership.
Totally. The most affordable material kit doesn't solve the problem if the assembly itself is unaffordable.
Which shifts all the risk onto the buyer.
100%. And that could really slow the rapid adoption that they need to hit their numbers.
Okay, let's move on. We have the rectangular model kit, which they call the flexible family house.
This is the workhorse of the lineup. It ranges from 1,200 to 1,450 square feet. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths.
So bigger. And the footprint is different.
Yeah, you might see variations like 24 by 48 or maybe 22 by 36. This design directly addresses growing families who need more space but still demand that efficiency.
And the key advantage here is flexibility, specifically for challenging properties.
Absolutely. The rectangular design is cited as being perfect for fitting narrow, rural, or small town lots.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, those kinds of lots often limit the use of the square or the four-square designs.
So this makes it an ideal fit for small towns needing a rapid infusion of housing stock.
Exactly. It's directly catering to their institutional and workforce housing targets. It's practical, it's adaptable, and it minimizes those site planning headaches.
Okay, finally we get to the premium model, the Crossett 4-square kit. This is the one that trades that ultimate efficiency for what? A historical aesthetic and higher margin.
This is their high-margin flagship. It's the premium 2-story model inspired by the American 4-square style that was popular from like 1910 to 1930.
Yet it's large.
It's large. 1,600 to 150 square feet. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, usually on a more imposing footprint, maybe 26 by 32 over 2 floors.
And the price tag reflects that size and architectural complexity. The kit retails for between $94,000 and $139,000.
Right. But the advantages for the company are clear. It provides the high margin that's necessary to subsidize the lower-cost starter models.
And it has a different appeal.
It offers a true historic Crossett match, a proven, sought-after aesthetic that commands a premium. While the square model targets affordability, the 4-square targets value and historic authenticity.
So the company actually needs strong 4-square sales to generate the capital required for scaling production across the whole line.
Without a doubt.
So we have the material prices, but let's get into the complexity of the product itself. When a customer pays, say, $139,000 for a 4-square kit, what exactly is on that flatbed truck?
This is the core operational challenge right here.
The engineering precision has to be flawless.
It has to be a comprehensive precision-engineered package. Because if one labeled piece is missing, the entire 3 to 5 day assembly timeline just collapses.
So let's detail the components, just to demystify some of the jargon for the listener.
Okay, so the customer receives pre-cut and labeled framing lumber for the walls, the floors, the roof.
Standard stuff.
Plus engineered trusses. And this is important. These are prefabricated roof or floor structures, which means the assembly team doesn't have to build the complex geometry on-site.
Which saves a massive amount of time and ensures structural integrity.
A huge amount of time, yes.
And the exterior finishes, you mentioned they're explicitly modern.
Correct. The plan lists modern, durable cladding options like LP SmartSide or Hardy board siding.
And that's a crucial distinction, isn't it?
It is. LP SmartSide is lightweight, and it's easy for a DIY builder to handle, which appeals to that D2C market.
Right.
But Hardy board offers a superior fire rating and durability, which might be mandatory for securing those lucrative institutional or state park contracts.
So the company has to manage inventory for both, which complicates production.
It really does.
They also include the subfloor, sheathing, house wrap, doors, windows, and, impressively, all the necessary fasteners, nails, screws, flashing.
And that detail is vital. You can't overlook that. It means the customer isn't left scrambling for specialized fasteners or having to make multiple trips to the hardware store.
Which is a huge time sink and cost accumulator in any DIY build.
A major one.
And here's where the liability questions start to creep in for me. They include technical elements, the rough-in kits.
Yeah. Electrical and plumbing roughing kits, plus the specific HVAC blueprints.
So the idea is to solve the integration problem that often plagues kit homes. How do you efficiently weave utilities into a pre-designed structure?
That's the goal.
But how do they manage the liability for those kits? I mean, if a DIY buyer tries to install the electrical package based on a manual and they wire something incorrectly and it results in a fire,
Yeah.
does that liability fall back on Crossett?
That is a fundamental operational risk. And it's one the business plan has to address with, stringent disclaimers, insurance, and really clear educational material.
So they're providing the material but not the certified installation.
Exactly. For the DTC market, this is a calculated risk the customer assumes. But for the institutional market, their client will likely demand that the kits meet specific professionally installed standards, which means the rough-in kits might only serve as a template for a licensed local contractor, not a guide for an amateur.
So the plan has to clarify that these are guidance tools, not complete plug-and-play systems.
They have to be crystal clear on that.
We also see flexibility in the purchase options. They offer 3 tiers, which seems to speak to that diverse target market.
It does. The base shell kit is for the ultimate efficiency seeker, the experienced contractor, or the highly skilled DIYer who only wants the precision-cut lumber package to save time.
Then they'll source their own doors, windows, everything else.
Right, based on their local preferences or specialized needs, like for an off-grid system.
Then you have the enhanced shell kit. This one includes the critical elements for sealing the structure.
That package adds insulation, windows, and doors. This is likely going to be the most popular option.
Why do you say that?
Because it covers the most critical elements of energy efficiency and climate sealing. It lets the shell get weather-tight really quickly. It just dramatically lowers the buyer's burden for sourcing specialty materials.
And finally, the complete build kit, which is basically everything but the kitchen sink.
Everything but appliances, yeah. And this maximizes revenue and margin per kit. This tier is clearly aimed at the institutional buyers.
Like state parks or workforce housing developers?
Exactly. They need a turnkey material package, ensuring that every house in a development is standardized right down to the interior finishes without worrying about managing dozens of independent suppliers.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We have great products, we know the target market is massive, and we know they have geographic advantages.
Right.
But how do you actually get a 40-foot flatbed loaded with these complex precision-cut house pieces from Ashley County, Arkansas to a load site in Montana or a state park in Georgia? This forces the critical strategic debate over distribution.
This section represents the single most crucial management decision point in the entire plan.
3 paths.
The source lays out 3 viable yet fundamentally conflicting paths to market. And achieving that aggressive year 3 goal of 200 kits depends entirely on which distribution risk they choose to embrace.
So we're debating high margin versus speed of reach versus long-term financial stability.
So it's the whole game.
Let's start with strategy A, direct-to-consumer, D2C, the highest margin path.
It is. D2C captures the maximum profit. By bypassing the dealer or the contractor markup, they realize the full profit potential that's listed in those model price ranges.
And it fixes the story.
It feeds the narrative of affordable housing and self-reliance, which makes it ideal for the rural landowner and the DIY enthusiast.
But the risks, the criticism levied against this strategy has to be enormous, particularly around logistics and customer service complexity. I challenge the feasibility of D2C as the primary strategy.
And that challenge is completely warranted. We are talking about highly specialized freight.
This isn't Amazon Prime.
No. Shipping a multi-ton kit is not like shipping packages. It involves coordinating specialized carriers, it often requires specific permitting for wide loads, and it demands meticulous inventory control across long distances.
The crushing reality is that they have to maintain a national logistics backbone that guarantees what 10,000 individually labeled pieces arrive perfectly, on time, and undamaged every single time.
Every single time.
If they're selling 200 kits a year, that's roughly 4 complex deliveries per week nationwide. So what's the failure rate? How catastrophic is it if one specific window header or a unique truss component is lost in transit?
The entire build stops, cold.
Right.
A D2C customer who has rented a crane and hired a crew for a specific window of time faces significant daily costs, labor penalties.
Something in there.
The resulting customer service headache and the cost of air freighting a single replacement piece of specialized lumber can easily wipe out the entire profit margin on that one kit,
So the high margin is entirely dependent on flawlessly executed logistics.
which demands massive investment in tracking technology, warehousing, and nationwide carrier relationships. The inherent volatility is, frankly, terrifying.
Okay, then we shift to strategy B, the dealer network, the path of immediate scale and speed.
This is tempting, so tempting, because it solves the logistics headache instantly.
Oh,
They leverage existing infrastructure, local hardware stores, regional lumber yards, those tractor supply style dealers that already command rural access.
and the dealer handles the local side of things.
The dealer handles the local freight, the customer relationship, local marketing, and often has relationships with local contractors who could actually assemble the kits.
So the major trade-off, the immediate criticism of this strategy is margin erosion. The dealer takes a cut,
And it can be a substantial one. You surrender maybe 15 to 30% of that retail price.
which significantly reduces the capital available for internal scaling and innovation.
It does, but I think the deeper debate is about control and priority.
What do you mean?
Why would a dealer who makes their money selling conventional stick-built materials piece by piece prioritize selling a Crossett kit?
Right. It might cannibalize their other sales.
They might just treat the kit as an auxiliary product, minimizing their sales effort. The company risks losing control over branding consistency, assemble quality, and pricing if they rely on independent dealers who might not have that long-term investment in the Crossett brand.
Okay, so DDC risks logistical collapse, and the dealer network risks brand dilution and margin sacrifice. That brings us to strategy C, government and institutional contracts. The plan posits this as the path to stability.
And this strategy targets guaranteed revenue. State parks, forestry service, emergency housing, workforce housing, these are high-volume, long-term contracts.
So securing a contract for, say, 50 employee cabins for a national park system?
Guarantees your production throughput for 6 months, and it maximizes your manufacturing efficiency.
What's the strategic analysis here? How does this stabilize the financials compared to the volatility of D2C or the margin loss of the dealer network?
Institutional contracts, once you secure them, are a stabilizing force. They guarantee predictable revenue that offsets the cyclical nature of the residential housing market.
Right.
But the criticism and debate around this path center on the entry barrier and the speed of execution.
Meaning, government contracts are slow.
Notoriously slow to secure. And they require adherence to stringent, often custom specifications.
Like what?
Think ADA compliance for a public facility, specific fire suppression codes, or environmental certifications that might demand modifications to their standardized kit designs.
So the stability comes at the cost of production complexity and time delay.
Exactly. Every deviation from the standardized kit adds cost and complexity to the manufacturing line in Ashley County. And that could potentially erase the very efficiency gains that make the kit affordable in the first place.
And I imagine the bidding process is competitive.
Extremely. The competitive bidding process for these contracts often drives margins down. So it's stable, it's high volume, but it often requires massive initial investment in compliance, bureaucracy navigation, and customization before a single dollar of revenue is ever realized.
So if they need cash flow now, strategy C is the slowest path.
By far.
This truly is a high-stakes debate. To hit that year 3 goal of 200 kits, they cannot afford a slow start.
No way.
If they choose D2C, they need massive early investment in logistics. If they choose the dealer route, they lose vital early margin.
And if they choose government, they risk bureaucracy stretching their cash flow past the breaking point.
It's a fundamental decision on how to allocate limited initial capital and capacity.
And that strategic choice has to be informed by the unique advantages they have in Ashley County. If they can leverage those advantages, maybe they can mitigate the risks of one of these strategies.
Good point. Let's explore those unique Ashley County advantages. The plan argues this isn't just a random location, it's a specific infrastructure and culture that makes this whole venture viable.
This section is the source's answer to the question, why can we achieve this when others fail? And it relies on 3 pillars: resource access, human capital, and logistics.
The first and most obvious competitive advantage Has to be the timber supply.
It's huge. They are strategically located in one of the cheapest, most renewable, and most abundant timber regions in the continental U.S.
And raw material cost is the single largest expense in a product like this.
It is. So if Crossett Kit Homes can consistently get their primary input at a cost substantially lower than, say, a coastal or a non-forested competitor, their $38,000 production cost for the square model becomes achievable and defensible.
That geographical location gives them a substantial cost cushion.
A huge one.
But the business plan stresses that it goes beyond just cheap wood. It's the institutional DNA of the area.
Absolutely. The town's history, its entire economic identity, is already built around cutting, milling, shipping, and building with timber.
So they aren't introducing a new alien industry.
Not at all. They are tapping into generational expertise. The plan actually asserts this is what Crossett is.
Which means lower training costs, higher efficiency.
Higher efficiency in the factory pre-cutting, and fewer manufacturing errors that could sabotage a kit assembly hundreds of miles away.
And that directly translates to the available labor pool.
The existing skilled workforce in South Arkansas, we're talking framers, sawmill workers, welders, truck drivers, specialized equipment operators, is already versed in every element of this supply chain.
And that's crucial for scaling up production volume rapidly, from 50 to 200 kits.
It is. However, here's a key point of skepticism for me. This labor pool helps the factory scale.
But it does absolutely nothing to help the DDC customer in Nebraska assemble their house.
Exactly. That's a critical distinction. The local expertise minimizes the factory risk, but it actually exacerbates the customer's assembly risk far away.
Which sort of pushes the company back toward strategy B, the dealer network, which provides local labor contacts.
Or strategy C, the institutional route, which uses established contractors.
So the labor advantage is purely for manufacturing, not distribution or installation support.
Precisely.
The plan also highlights significant transportation access, which is essential for overcoming those logistical hurdles we just talked about.
Right, shipping house kits demands efficient multimodal infrastructure. They cite major highways like US 425 and US 82.
And proximity to regional hubs like Monroe and El Dorado simplifies truck freight.
It does, but the real competitive advantage, especially for those high-volume Strategy C contracts, is the Port of Crossett and the existing regional rate access.
So you can ship by barge or train.
And shipping bulky materials becomes dramatically more economical via rail or barge for long-distance deliveries. If they win a massive contract with, say, the Army Corps of Engineers for housing along a river system.
The Port of Crossett suddenly becomes a huge competitive advantage that a coastal competitor just can't match.
It really does.
Okay, so this combination of cheap raw material, skilled labor, and specialized freight infrastructure provides a solid foundation. Now, let's look at the financial ambition, because these targets are aggressive.
Extremely aggressive. And they rely on flawless execution of whichever distribution path they choose.
The trajectory requires a massive, sustained scale-up. The year-one goal is to sell 40 to 60 kits.
Okay.
Using their average price of $82,000, that projects to about $4.1 million in revenue.
Right. And with the cost structure they propose, gross costs around 60%, that would yield an estimated $1.6 million gross margin in the first year.
And that $1.6 million margin is everything.
It's the lifeblood, it's the working capital, and
Yeah.
here is the financial debate. Is $1.6 million enough?
Enough for what?
Is it enough to fund the necessary investment in the national D2C logistics network, or the complex dealer training and support program, or the initial government contract bidding processes and the capex required for scaling manufacturing capacity by 5 times?
I would argue it's dangerously thin.
I agree. To jump from 50 to 200 kits, you need more milling equipment, more warehouse space, more specialized employees. These are significant capital expenditures.
And if unexpected logistics costs a few major DDC shipping failures or extensive bureaucracy for a government bid push that gross cost above 60% early on.
They might miss that $1.6 million target, and without that capital, the entire scaling plan just collapses.
So their plan to double volume in year 2 to 80 to 120 kits, that absolutely depends on solving the distribution problem in year 1.
Absolutely. They need either a robust operational dealer network established or a major institutional contract secured and in fulfillment by the end of that first year.
If they are still debating strategy A, B, or C at the end of year 1, the year 2 targets become basically unreachable.
A fantasy.
And the pinnacle of the 3-year plan is year 3, scaling to 200 kits, targeting $16 to $18 million in revenue. This 5-fold jump in production volume, it necessitates a completely different operational structure.
To hit 200 kits, they have to shift from being a specialized regional manufacturer to a national player.
Which requires.
Highly optimized factory automation, significant labor scaling, and a distribution method, be it D2C, dealer, or government, that is not just functional, but running at peak efficiency.
We're talking about handling over one highly complex, multi-piece delivery per workday nationwide.
Yes. And the capital expenditure required to support that leap is likely far greater than the total year-one gross margin.
Finally, let's look at the branding and positioning, because the marketing needs to sell confidence and solve that perceived risk of buying a house site unseen.
The branding is strategic. It's linking history, location, and accessibility. You see taglines like "built on timber, rooted in history."
Which instantly lends heritage and authenticity.
Right. It differentiates them from, sterile, modern, modular housing. It suggests reliability.
They also heavily emphasize the DIY element with lines like, "a house you can build with your own hands."
That tagline is a direct strategic move to capture the DDC market, the homesteader, the person looking for self-reliance and minimizing contractor expense.
It positions the kit not just as material, but as an empowering project.
It does. However, this circles right back to our unseen cost debate. If the buyer can't secure the financing for the foundation and utilities, that promise of self-reliance is kind of hollow.
And their regional positioning, Southern housing, made simple, that grounds the brand in its geographic strength.
It connects back to the viability argument. It suggests durability, practicality, and efficiency, leveraging the historical reputation of high-quality Southern timber manufacturing. It's an essential part of the pitch.
The product is authentic because the history, the materials, and the expertise are authentic to the region.
That's the story they're selling.
So what does this all mean? We started with an internal business plan for reviving a pretty niche product, but this entire deep dive has been about systemic solutions.
It really has.
The plan itself connects the dots between historical efficiency and solving modern housing needs.
And it highlights that the affordability crisis is fundamentally a distribution and manufacturing efficiency crisis, not necessarily a design problem.
The kit home concept is proven viable.
It is. The debate isn't if the concept works, history proves it does, but how you manage the logistics, the operational nightmares, and maintain those ambitious margins while scaling rapidly from 50 to 200 units per year.
Without falling into the logistical traps of DDC or the financial compromises of the dealer network.
Exactly.
They have great product lines and incredible geographic advantages, but they are fundamentally caught between three conflicting strategic decisions on market access. And each one places different existential pressures on their limited capital and capacity.
And this raises a really important question, building on the source material's mention of historic town building and workforce housing.
Okay.
If this model is focused on replicating historic success, what critical social infrastructure that was readily available in the 1920s must also be updated and applied today to ensure true affordability?
You're talking about more than just the physical materials in the box.
Way more. In the 1920s, companies like the original Crossett Lumber Company often provided local in-house financing mechanisms.
Or had established relationships with company-vetted local contractors who knew the kits intimately.
Exactly. The modern D2C buyer lacks that built-in support system.
So if you sell a house kit for $70,000, but the buyer cannot get an affordable construction loan to cover the land, the foundation, and the labor.
The true all-in cost of modern DIY housing solutions skyrockets, often past the cost of conventional housing.
The affordable delivery of the material kit is only half the problem.
The affordable, insured, and timely completion of the structure is the unseen cost they have to address to truly capture that massive first-time homebuyer market they are targeting.
That's the ultimate barrier to entry. Affordability isn't just the sticker price on the kit. It's the total financial and logistical hurdle.
Right.
The company that figures out how to package the land, the financing, and the vetted local assembly labor alongside the physical kit, that's the company that hits the year 3 goal of 200 units.
And that's the company that genuinely solves an aspect of the housing crisis.
But it forces them to become not just a manufacturer, but a financing and logistics solutions provider.
Which dramatically increases complexity, but it also dramatically increases market capture.
Fascinating. High-stakes analysis will leave you with this provocative thought. Given the analysis of the financial constraints and the necessary 5-fold scaling, which of the 3 distribution strategies, direct-to-consumer, the dealer network, or government contracts, do you believe the Crossett Kit Homes management team must prioritize to have the highest probability of hitting that year 3 goal of 200 kits.
Consider the conflict between speed, margin, and stability carefully.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the strategy, costs, and high-stakes debate surrounding the revival of Crossett Kit Homes.